So what we'll do is, as you focus the mind onto the breathing, and the breathing is your anchor point, and you bring your mind back to the breath. Try to be with the in-breath as it starts, lasts for a while, and then ends. And then the out-breath as it begins, lasts for a while, and then ends. And every so often your mind will wander out to something else, a sound, a feeling in the body, or a thought from the past or the future. When it does, try to be aware of what's actually happening in the present moment. I can't give you instructions for how to deal with this or that, because I don't know what your experience is. But you will have pains arise, or pleasant experiences arise, or visions, or thoughts and memories and worries. Try to be aware of the thing as it arises. But very often you get lost in something before you even know that it was there. When you realize that you're lost in something, you stop and you take a note and you feel that thing, that thought, that memory, or that physical feeling, or that sound. Very quickly, that feeling, thought, sound will start to ebb away from your consciousness if you don't feed it with thinking. Okay? And then, if there's nothing happening, you come back to the breath. So we're going to sit together for 20 minutes. So bringing your mind together, bright and as still as you can. You call into the meditation the idea of loving kindness that is centering in your being, bright, radiating unconditional loving kindness, using the imagination in any way that you can to call that feeling into mind. If you can't feel it, just invite it, or just pretend that you have it. Radiating this beam of loving kindness, without condition. May all beings everywhere, in every state, be happy and be peaceful and be free from suffering. Sabbe buddha palapatta pacekanancha nambalam arahantanancha tejena rakandandami sattaso sabba buddha nupavena sabba dhamma nupavena sabba sangha nupavena sattasoti bhavantu te. Relax your posture. Relax your posture. Check Facebook for messages. So we have just 10 minutes or so to, if you have any questions. There was one question already about physical pain. And physical pain is the same process. By way of demonstrating I'll just tell you a quick story. My father was working in his shop one day, and he was hammering something, and he hit his thumb with the hammer. And of course he yelped and complained, and like most men he had to like show everybody. He just couldn't just suffer in silence. And I was watching him very carefully, and it's towards the end of the day, and then we wrapped up, we finished the shop, we cashed up, we set the alarm, we left, we closed all the shutters, we went down, we got in the van, we went to the bank, deposited the money in the night safe, and we're driving home. And I was watching him through all this time, and he was perfectly happy. But every couple of minutes or so, his face would screw up. Oh, my summer. And then he'd be driving, quite happy. And I was interested because, you know, why wasn't his thumb hurting most of the time? And I said this to him, I said, your thumb isn't hurting the whole time. He said, yes it is. I said, no it isn't, I'm watching you, you're driving and doing things, I can still drive while my thumb hurts. I'm like, yes, but you're not like this. And he's like, well, I don't have to complain about it. And he's And we argued, and eventually he conceded. He said, well, maybe I'm not aware of it the whole time, but it is hurting the whole time. So as a meditator, when we're dealing with pain, we notice that, yes, that thumb may have been hurting the whole time in one sense. That is, every time you put your attention onto the thumb and check, yes, it's hurting. But we're trying to get out of that way of thinking, this world full of things and people and constructs. And we're trying to get into direct experience. Not what you think about the pain, but actual experience. And the experience is, he's quite happy driving his car and indicating and putting the money into the night safe deposit box. And he's not aware of the pain in his thumb. That pain in the thumb will only arise into consciousness when you put your attention onto it. And you don't suffer over it if you're not putting conscious attention on things. This was a really hard lesson for me to learn, and I still get it wrong sometimes. Because, you know, we all suffer over things, what we want people to be like, what we want our children to be like, and parents and everything, our business and government and politicians, what we want them to be like. But you're not suffering over it when you're not calling it up into your mind. So the pain is also the same thing. You notice that every so often you'll put your attention onto it. And when you do that, you start feeding it with thoughts. Oh, my knee, do I need a knee replacement? Shall I get stem cell therapy? Do I need physiotherapy? You know, my knee always hurts, other people's knees don't hurt. I can't meditate because my knee hurts. And start to watch this process as it picks up. And then notice that a few minutes later, you're not even thinking about it. You're thinking about something else entirely. Right? Thinking about the traffic in Sydney. Like, oh, isn't it terrible? You don't know the meaning of the word traffic. Someone said to me, oh, it'll take us a long time to get there with the traffic. I'm like, well, how long? He said, like more than 20 minutes. We wait at one set of lights for 20 minutes. In Bangkok. So your mind has already gone on to something else. Is that pain still there or isn't it? So get to watch that conscious process. Now, what most people want is the silver bullet, not the secret sauce, right? The sauce just adds a slight difference of flavour to everything, but the silver bullet can shoot down your problems. And everyone wants the silver bullet. They want a machine gun full of silver bullets, and they can hack down and mow down all their problems. But this process doesn't work like that. It works as the secret sauce. And it won't reduce your pain, but it will change your relationship to your pain. You get interested in it. Very briefly, there are two kinds of pain, many kinds, but two kinds that are of interest to a meditator. One is real pain, and the other is Dharma pain. Real pain is when you have a knee problem or a back problem, and it's a genuine physical ailment. The other kind is pains that will start to manifest in meditation, and you get this to a lesser degree with yoga and things. And what happens is that as you sit and meditate, suddenly a pain will start to come up, and really like in an area of your body, usually very specific, and can really make you think that you're going to crack. But if you stop and you stand up and you move around, the pain's gone. And this is a Dharma pain, so it's not a real pain. Dharma pains you can sit through. Real pains don't sit through because you're going to damage your knee or your back. Change your posture, lie down, do something else. Dharma pains are stored feelings that you have. Every mental action that you make has a physical counterpart. When you thread a needle, actually when I was welding and I'd have trouble welding, and I'd be like this, and then my boss would say to me, hold the tongue on the other side of your mouth. When you're doing any action, you have a physical counterpart. Threading a needle, you screw your eye up, right, and you go like this. You don't stick your tongue out to thread a needle. But any action you make has a physical counterpart, and all the thoughts and emotions that you hold in your life have a physical counterpart. And if you practice to be able to sit and let go, what happens is these start to unfold out of your body. And they can be really quite horrible and excruciating, I have to tell you. I shouldn't say that, should I? You ever notice these courses where they charge a lot of money? They always tell you you're going to transform your life and be wonderful, but you come here, I'm going to tell you it's painful. And so often, I remember when I first started meditating, it was across my chest, and I swear there was an iron band, hose clamp, if you know hose clamps, and somebody was tightening it, and I swear like something's going to go. And the teacher said to me, just say to it, see what you got, come on. So I sat there and like, come on, and it got worse and worse and worse, and then I was like, and it just went. And then it started to appear in other places, the stomach folded out one day. I had this one in my back, it was a golf ball in the middle of my back, between my bones. Every time I'd sit, I'd be like, sit meditation, and oh man, this thing would just appear in my back the second I would start meditating. And it went on for about 8 months. Like every single time I meditate, just, right there. And the teacher said, well, you just notice your mind goes to it, your mind goes away from it. I've done that. I want to One day, after about 8 months, I can't tell you why, I just was sitting there and I was kind of okay with it, like, all right, we just stay there. And then it just went, and just left my back. And my eyes went open, it's like, oh my God. And the second I did that, it was straight back. But once you've seen the end of it, it's lost its power, it's lost its magic. And within a couple of weeks, it just kind of just went. Then I got one on the other side. So, by that time I was getting confident that I know how these things work. And so I know, I've got one here now, but it'll work its way out. So, real pains, watch the process of your consciousness, but you might need to change your posture of your body or change the way you sit. Dharma pains, you just have to sit with them, make friends with them. And as you calm the mind down, eventually they work their way out. There's a state called passaddhi, which is when the mind gets very comfortable and concentrated, and the body becomes very, very pleasant. It's kind of a neutral pleasant, and it's just like buzzing or humming, and you just like It sits straight by itself, you're not doing it, and it's just, it's really nice. Of course then, every time you sit, I want to get back to that thing. That doesn't work. But there is that condition kind of further down the path. Does anyone have any questions? We have 6 minutes. If you have any question, you can answer. Wow, you're all sitting here in bliss. Go ahead.
We were talking before about letting go of unwholesome mental states. I was just thinking that I've noticed that when they come up, and I know that the intention should be to let go of them, but I noticed, like when you gave the example of resentment, I noticed that with resentment and other unwholesome states in myself, there's a tendency to really resist letting go because it feels like they should be there, like they're justified, and you always, there's that tendency to justify them to yourself. Like, what's going on there?
And the things that come up, they really tell you that they're real. It really nags at you, like you really need to think about this. It's really real. You know, my parents really did do that to me 35 years ago. And you just have to sit through it. But if you sit with it, if you feed it with thinking, it's going to get big. If you don't feed it with thinking and you allow it to be there, you're not looking for silver bullets. You don't want to shoot these things down. That would be like whack-a-mole. You know that one with the computer game where the little mole, it's 5 holes and the mole sticks its head out and you have to hit the mole on the head. Like this. And sometimes people approach it like whack-a-mole, like something bad comes up. Boom. But all you need to do is watch it. The gatekeeper doesn't need to beat people and hurt people, he just needs to protect the gate. So what you do is you don't feed it with more thinking, but you allow it to be there. It won't stay for very long. It calls on you, says, you really need to think about me, they're really happening, it's really important. And you watch it, and then it goes, and wanders off. And then you're left free, and you're like, wow, I've seen it end. When you've seen it end, it's going to lose its power over you, but slowly. The Buddha, I've given a lot of talks the last couple of weeks, I can't remember what I told which group, but there is one of the Buddha's own descriptions of this. He said, imagine a young man or a young woman who is beautiful and fond of their appearance. And if you were to take a dead dog, rotting and stinking, and drape it over their shoulders, what would they do? The answer is, very quickly they would remove that dead dog from their shoulder. And the Buddha said, even so, when you really see unwholesome things when they arise in the mind, you will naturally cast them off. It's not a case of letting go, like this comes out, I can fight against it. That's just setting one side of your mind against the other side of your mind. You've got a war in your head. So the way through it, the secret is to see it. When you really see it and know it, you just naturally just want to drop it. One more? Anybody else? Are you all good?
Yeah, I'll go on. So, the Western psychological model, would tell us that if we don't give importance to our narrative, our story, and that we just sit there with the gatekeeper, that there's this whole idea of suppression, and it's a real belief, that amongst my interactions day to day, it's like if you're not talking about it or dealing with it, you obviously are going to suppress it, and it's going to manifest in other ways. So what's the difference between that and watching as the gatekeeper?
Did you all hear? Mm-hmm. So the question is about when are you suppressing? There is no suppressing in the Buddhist model. I have a brief story. I'll try. My brother had a girlfriend, and she was driving his car. And one day she phoned me up and said, the car's broken down. Now, I was quite pleased because my brother is a technical imbecile. And so I was very glad that she called me and didn't call him. That's one up for me. And I said, fine, leave it there, I'll come and have a look. So I hop in my car and I'm driving along, and I'm driving down the road, I know where she is, and I know what's wrong with that car a mile before I get to it. I can see what's wrong with that car. The back wheel had come off. I don't like, now when a wheel comes off, the screws unscrew and it starts to go clunk, 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 bang, 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 shake, shake, rattle, rattle, rattle. Right? It doesn't just come off. It goes through this process. I'm like, can't you hear it? When it comes off, it rattles and shakes, can't you hear it? And she said, yeah, I heard it. And I said, so what did you do? And I swear, this is what she said. She said, I turned the radio up. Now that's suppression. Suppression is where you remove something forcibly and you're covering it up with something else. So with this process, if you're allowing yourself to see it and look at it, you're not suppressing it. Now, like I said, it may change and disguise itself and come back later on, but that's not, you don't need to worry about that. If you're willing to feel it and see it, you're not suppressing it. Okay, we're done, out of time. So, next week is actually my favourite week. We're going to do a fairy tale, and I'm quite famous for this. I'm the only person in the world that does these. So, Dharma talks, there are millions, YouTube and everything, but the fairy tale, you will only ever hear from me. So, next week is a really good week, and the fairy tale is a really good way to, when you learn something new, you can have it explained. That's the logos, the logic, and follow it. But the stories will internalize it. So if you hear and understand the fairy tale, it really internalizes these practices and processes in a powerful way. So next week I'm really excited, and that's the week to come. Unless, of course, you go and watch Batman vs Superman, which you did. Up to you.